the many fails of Shirou Emiya. So whether he just made a decision and it didn't work out in the end, or he just chose a different path when, you know, he clearly could have taken this one path that probably could have saved lives or something, or been like a better option in the end. But other than that, yes, here we go, back with some more Otaku Daikun. So yeah, it's just, I've been looking at a lot of Saya lately at least, and yeah, just wanted to get back into Otaku, and yeah, perfectly, someone requested this, so might as well. And we got a good 20 minutes, so yeah, let's see. Wow, that's kind of a lot for Shirou, ain't it? But I mean, I guess it's understandable, just like how I was just saying, like making certain decisions, and it's like there was a clear, better route, but you know, just his whole mindset, how he just goes about things, yeah, it's just, you know, he just feels like that would be the best option, even if there are going to be consequences in the end, or regardless, actually. But other than that, I think I'll just start this up here, so I hope you guys will enjoy. Make sure you like, subscribe, and let's get this reaction started.
Welcome back to Otaku Daikun. Dai here. Today's video is brought to you by my $50 member, SF Giants fan Mike, over on Subscribestar. He told me he wanted to know more about Fate Stay Night's various bad endings, and whether or not there's any interesting lore tucked behind them. We'll be having a lot of fun at Shirou's expense, as I'll be going over all 40 of the visual novel's bad endings.
40.
These endings are often strange and
That is
fascinating,
insane.
so it'll be cool to finally comment on them. For a guy like Shirou, who has the healing power of Avalon, it's hard to believe he can die so many times and in so many different ways.
I guess that makes sense,
It's
yeah,
definitely
dying
not always
multiple
consistent.
times.
He can have all of his organs torn open by Heracles and survive.
Yeah.
Yet a fall from a 3-story building is too much for him to recover from. Very strange.
Or certain
Also, some of
encounters
these endings
that,
wind up quite lengthy, describing
yeah,
events that really do expand the story.
like he probably may
Players
not
are
never
encouraged to reach
met
all of
Ia.
these endings, each one commemorated with a humorous Tiger Dojo skit. Collecting all the Tiger stamps unlocks the true ending to the Fate route, so for me it's not even optional content. Let's take a look. We'll start with the Fate route. Right at the start of the story, Shirou is given the choice to fight in the Grail War or relinquish his command seals. If you choose the latter, Shirou says he can't participate, as that would involve killing people. In response, Kirei goes ahead and forcibly removes 2 of Shirou's command spells, literally sinking his hand into Shirou's arm and painfully extracting them. With the operation a success, Kirei tells Shirou to use up his last command seal, voiding his contract with Saber. Kirei also offers protection at the church, but Shirou rejects it, believing none of the other masters would have a reason to kill him if he's not even participating. He steps outside the church and tells Saber he's giving up the fight. She threatens to kill him and use his body to preserve the contract, but she ultimately accepts his decision. So cool. We've cleanly cut ties, but that doesn't mean
Okay, I thought he just instantly stepped out and someone just cut him up.
Ilya and Heracles are waiting just a ways away from the church. She don't care whether Shirou's a master or not, and promptly has Heracles lop off one of his arms, mangle his legs, and launch one of his lungs 50 meters away.
There we go.
For funsies, Ilya curses Shirou so that he's forced to remain conscious through all of the pain, unless his head is crushed. As such, he has to feel the pain, as Heracles literally flattens his body.
Yeah, I can see he's seeing red right
Ilya
now.
can pick him up and take him home. Christ! I guess this doesn't count as a death, but something much worse. As we go through these, I'll be keeping a tab of who's responsible for Shirou's suffering in each one. Turns out Ilya's to blame for a lot of them. Tiger Dojo number 2 is reached when, during the fight against Heracles, we choose to protect Rin instead of Saber. We grab Tosaka and make a run for it, but apparently this leaves us vulnerable. When Heracles targets us, Rin tries to save Shirou and gets impaled by Heracles' giant sword. Coughing up blood, Rin tells us to run to the church, and along our way, Heracles catches up and launches us into the graveyard. Shirou's spine is broken, but he's still alive. As his consciousness fades, Ilya abducts him and vows to turn him into a doll she can continually torture. Lore-wise, these Ilya kills make sense, since she's venting her hatred for Kiritsugu onto us. She wants to show Shirou how good he's had it, while she had to suffer. Number 3 occurs, oddly enough, when we choose to agree with Saber's desire to investigate Ryudo Temple. Sadly, Shirou has next to no magical resistance, and the temple is Caster's domain, so when we go there, he is teleported directly to Medea. She immediately slices into Shirou with her dagger and amputates his arm to steal his command spells.
Yo.
No longer contracted with Saber, Avalon
No
doesn't
mercy.
protect Shirou, so he dies after falling into the nearby pond. This happens because at this point, Saber hasn't recovered from her previous fight, and Archer is incapacitated for much of this route, meaning there's nobody to save him. Number 4 occurs when Shinji and Medusa activate the Blood Fort at school. If you get cocky and choose to go on the offensive, Medusa quickly stabs you in the back of the head and proceeds to drink your blood. I guess even Avalon can't help you when all your energy is being consumed. Number 5 occurs during the same fight. Remaining defensive lets you stay alive, until Ryder kicks you out the window of the school's 3rd story. Shirou plummets to the ground, and if you stubbornly choose not to summon Saber via command spell, he strikes the surface. Oddly enough, as Shirou dies, he gets a glimpse of his own body pierced by tons of swords. Apparently, it wasn't the fall itself that killed him, but rather the fall triggered what I assume is his origin of sword to awaken. Instead of normal damage, Shirou's body melts along with his command spells. I'm afraid that's really all I can say. We know his body becomes made of swords as he takes damage in Heaven's Feel, but it's still strange. You'd think Avalon could still heal him, but I guess it's more effective the closer Artoria is to him. The healing does have its limits after all, but I must admit those limits are more plot convenience than solid world building. Number 6 occurs when Artoria and Medusa are fighting atop the skyscraper. Shirou is at the bottom of the building and can choose to give chase or to stay put. Staying put causes Artoria to win the fight with Excalibur, but we never actually see it happen. The next day, Emiya kidnaps Shirou and seems to transfer him into a doll. It's not the only time she'll do this. In a similar manner, number 7 occurs after Emiya kidnaps Shirou and first tries to get him to consent to being her familiar. If you agree to her request, she still transfers his mind into a doll, but this time she's happy about it since she feels she got prior consent. I'm sorry, Emiya, but that's not how this works. Number 8 occurs during Artoria's battle against Heracles in the Ainsburn Forest. She tries to use Excalibur on Heracles. If you don't stop her, she expends all of her remaining mana, which isn't enough to kill her opponent. She's beaten to a pulp by Heracles, and Emiya says she'll let Rin escape if Shirou agrees to die. Regardless, Heracles lops off Shirou's legs so he can't escape, and crushes Rin to death. Number 9 occurs when Medea begins her assault on Shirou's house. Artoria is confident she can take on Castor by herself, and since Shirou's magic resistance sucks, he chooses to let her go, and instead protects Rin and Emiya. The logic makes sense, except Shirou doesn't know that Medea's noble phantasm is Rule Breaker, which can sever bonds between a master and servant. As such, Shirou suddenly notices his command spells vanish, and when he runs up to Saber just a moment later, she reluctantly slashes him worse than she does in Unlimited Blade Works. Number 10 is very similar. Even if we follow Saber into battle against Medea, the threat of Rule Breaker is still there. If Shirou doesn't notice it's a trap on time, and instead gets cocky about Artoria's chance of winning, Medea will whip out Rule Breaker and steal Saber away. Once more, Saber kills Shirou, crying while doing so. Now, while Artoria committed these last 2 kills, the ultimate blame falls on Medea, so I'll tally it as such. It's not poor Saber's fault. Number 11 is just pathetic, really.
Don't stand
While
up.
Gilgamesh is kicking our asses later on, we can choose to stand up against him or just let Shirou die. The choice might as well be between survive and not survive, continue and game over. Number 12 occurs when Shirou visits the church to discuss Artoria with Kirei. You're supposed to go down into the basement to find out all of the suffering orphan children. But if you choose to head back home, you won't learn about Kirei's malice. As such, when Kirei visits Shirou's home directly, Shirou lets his guard down and gets impaled by Lancer. Now, while it's not a real bad end, I do want to talk about a parody moment that occurs during Shirou and Artoria's training sessions. If you choose to deny Saber an early lunch, Shirou and Emiya tease her about her eating habits. Artoria doesn't find it funny, and instead beats the lights out of Shirou bad enough in a duel that it triggers a fake Tiger Dojo. Speaking of pissing off Saber, Tiger Dojo 13 is one of the hardest in the game to obtain, because it requires you to spend your entire playthrough ignoring Saber whenever possible. If she doesn't have enough affection points by the time Kirei asks her to kill Shirou and claim the Grail, she actually does it. Rather, she considers it for just a second, and that alone is enough for her to chop Shirou down. The final bad ending in the Fate route occurs if Shirou doesn't give Avalon back to Artoria prior to their final battle against Gilgamesh and Kirei. As a result, Saber cannot hold her own against Gilgamesh, and Shirou succumbs to Kirei's demon diarrhea. We've now reached Unlimited Blade Works.
Oh, Unlimited,
Tiger Dojo
okay.
15 occurs during that initial fight with Heracles.
This is still
If we
crazy.
do what Rin says and run away from the battle, Artoria loses the fight, leaving Shirou vulnerable to assassination from Lancer. In other terms, don't be a coward. Number 16 occurs when Rin gets fed up with Shirou's naivete and fights him after school. If you choose to jump to the stairs, Shirou is struck by Rin's Gundo shots and falls unconscious. Instead of killing you, she tampers with your memories, erasing your knowledge of both Rin herself and the Grail War. None the wiser, he returns to his peaceful school life. Makes me wonder how Saber felt about that. Number 17 occurs when Shirou confronts Medusa in the woods just outside of school. For once, it seems that Shirou's reluctance to rely on Saber actually pays off, because during this fight, Medusa is specifically waiting for Shirou to try and use his command spells. The moment he does, she rips off his arm. Without his servant contract, Shirou suffers irreparable brain damage due to blood loss. Number 18 occurs if Shirou decides to ask his buddy Issei about the mysterious woman living at Ryudo Temple. Turns out that Medea had placed a mind control spell on the temple's residents that would activate should someone inquire too deeply about her. It compels Issei to slice Shirou and kill himself with a knife.
His
This ending is
own
especially
friend.
creepy, but considering Shirou's been injured worse before, I don't see why Avalon wouldn't have kept him safe.
I'm
Sure,
telling you, when I
Artoria's
say
back
no
at home,
mercy.
but it's a bit silly. Number 19
Like, you're just
is
pulling
much
all
more
the stops.
brutal.
Just like, yeah,
During
what can
our
we
first
think of that
fight
could just
with
be
Kuzuki,
really
if Shirou
bad?
chooses to try and help Artoria instead
Kill
of
him in the
Rin,
worst
Kuzuki
way.
takes advantage of his distraction to punch his foot off, pierce Rin's chest, and slam down on her head so hard it decapitates her. Kuzuki then
Okay.
finishes Shirou by puncturing his chest. Assuming Artoria also lost this fight, it makes sense that Shirou would die here. Number 20 occurs when Medea kidnaps Taiga. If you agree to cooperate with her, she puts you into a catatonic slumber and uses Artoria to secure the Grail. For whatever reason, she keeps Shirou alive as a limbless corpse, floating in a tube, and it's only thanks to Rin that he's put out of his misery. This is one of the endings I'd love to see visually, as it definitely seems like nightmare fuel. Number 21 occurs if Shirou decides to visit the church.
Yo,
where
wait,
lies,
what happened
unaware
here?
that it's become Medea's new base of operations. No matter what you try, since you went alone, there is no hope. Medea declares she will amputate Shirou's limbs and use him as a magic wand for projection magic. Practical yet horrifying. Number 22 occurs when Shirou visits the church while Rin and Archer are there. If you get impatient and rush in on them, Kuzuki notes that the fight is now unbalanced and advises they employ Saber, whom Medea can now control with command spells. Despite having class advantage, Archer has more or less given up on the fight before it starts, and it's assumed we all perish, though we don't see the actual outcome. Number 23 occurs if you reject Lancer's help in the latter part of the story. Without any servants on your side, when you return to the church, you try to fight Archer alone and fail. Turns out that fight between Archer and Lancer is really important. The last bad end in
Yeah, I
Unlimited Blade
feel
Works
like it
occurs
would
when
be that
Gilgamesh is
important.
being sucked into the corrupt Grail and is clinging on to Shirou via Enkidu.
Oh, he
You
okay.
can choose to sacrifice yourself, letting both Shirou and Gilgamesh be dragged in. He experiences visions of Angramanyu as his body is consumed. While this is practically a suicide, I'm still counting this as Gilgamesh's fault.
Okay,
Heaven's
that's
Feel has
interesting
by
to
far
know.
the most
Whoa.
bad endings. Number 25 occurs if Shirou doesn't spend enough time with Sakura. When
That
he
looks
goes out into the city
insane.
without visiting her,
Yo.
he is ultimately swallowed up by the shadow. Technically, I'm going to count all of Sakura's kills as Zoken's kills, since he's the one that made her into a Grail vessel in the first place. Number 26 is not influenced by any one choice in particular, but if you fail to build your relationship with Elia, she'll become worried that the Shadow is recruiting too many servants. She goes to your house and does her usual thing, killing Shirou's body and sticking his mind into a doll. I assume this is so she can steal Saber before her enemy can. Number 27 occurs if Shirou decides to attack Zoken at Ryudo Temple without waiting for or summoning Saber. The attack fails, as Shirou is swarmed by bugs and devoured by penis worms.
Yeah.
Number 28 occurs if Shirou refuses to ask Tosaka for help. He considers it his own problem to solve, meaning that when Shinji calls him to the school, he goes without any support. While Medusa doesn't respect Shinji at all, she
Did you say
ultimately
my
deems
tongue
Shirou
bulged
is too
from
weak
the
to save
mouth?
Sakura and breaks his neck with her chain. Similarly, number 29 occurs during the same fight if you decide to charge Medusa with your eyes closed in an attempt to repel her mystic eyes. Apparently, it doesn't work that way. Even with eyes closed, looking at Medusa will result in petrification. She even says it's a curse to look at her in any way. That's kinda sketch though. Didn't Perseus use his mirrored shield to avoid being petrified? I guess noble phantasms are an exception to the rule. So it's clear we need Rin's help, but that doesn't mean we should do anything to get her aid. Number 31, yes, we're doing this slightly out of order, occurs when you pledge total obedience to her. She places a gesh upon Shirou, making it literally impossible for him to oppose her. This comes back around to bite him when he decides he wants to protect Sakura, but Rin decides to kill her. At this point, even if he wins the Grail while working with Rin, his spirit is completely crushed, having been unable to help his beloved. Number 30 pertains to this same dilemma, but is only a real choice if you don't pledge absolute obedience to Rin. If you choose not to protect Sakura, it's akin to you choosing to follow in Kiritsugu's footsteps. We actually let Rin kill Sakura, and Kirei thinks this means Shirou will become the one to win the war. If he's willing to let Sakura die, he should have no issue killing Rin and Emiya along the way. That's just what Kirei thinks though, we never see it happen. This is the first bad ending I think we can blame entirely on Shirou. The next two endings occur around the Ainsburn Forest during our first venture into it. For 32, Shirou decides to stay away from the conflict, as he doesn't have a servant. As a result, when Sakura's shadow takes over all the forest, Shirou is quickly swallowed up by it. In 33, Shirou does join the others, but ignores Archer's order to protect Emiya. Instead, when he goes to help Rin, they are all caught in the shadow's explosion and devoured. Whoops. Number 34 occurs if Shirou rejects Zoken's invitation to discuss Sakura. This means that Shirou doesn't learn the truth of the shadow, and the following evening, the shadow kills both Shirou and Emiya. I imagine this is Zoken's doing. While he's not in direct control over Sakura, he does seem somewhat able to manipulate the shadow's behavior. Assuming we do go visit Zoken, he tells us that if we want to stop the shadow's rampage, we'll have to kill Sakura. Number 35 occurs if Shirou attempts to bring his knife down into Sakura's throat. It's a pretty dumb decision, considering he should have known that Medusa was watching and would never let anyone harm her beloved Sakura. Number 36 is pathetic.
But
Shirou
we
could
lost?
just choose to give up the Grail War and any hope of saving Sakura. Lame. Number 37 occurs if Shirou rejects Kirei's help in rescuing Emiya. He goes it alone and gets killed by Hassan inside the mansion. By far the most famous of these bad endings is Sparks Liner High, number 38. It's not even classified as a bad ending, it just says end. It occurs if Shirou does not form a partnership with Medusa going into the final battle. This leaves him fighting Saber Alter in a one-on-one duel to the death. By tapping into Archer's memories deeper and deeper, Shirou can hold his own through repeated projections, and he ultimately strikes Artoria with a fatal blow. Sadly, all these projections have essentially fried Shirou's brain, rendering him brain dead, unable to deliver a killing strike. Artoria has the chance to heal from her wound, but she no longer has the will to live now that Shirou's toast. Number 39 deals with the same battle, except now you've got Medusa's help. Her plan for victory hinges upon Shirou staying out of the fight until the very last possible second, only acting if Artoria unleashes Excalibur Morgan. If you choose to jump into the fight too early, Artoria just chops off Shirou's arm and finishes him off.
Yeah, what is up with Shirou and his arm, bro? Like,
occurs if Shirou hesitates to bring his blade down on Artoria
I
at the
mean,
end of their fight.
dang.
Because of this, Artoria escapes and helps Sakura defeat Rin. Thus, by the time Shirou reaches Sakura, Rin has already been consumed and is being subject to all manner of horrible violations meant to match what Sakura had been through all of these years. Shirou's will is shattered by this, and he too gets gobbled up. The various bad endings in Fate Stay Night truly are fascinating, especially ones like Sparks Liner High. They are one of the main features that the visual novel has that none of the anime adaptations can convey. I personally found it fun to try and trace each ending back to the person I thought was truly at fault, so let me share my results with you. I blame Emiya for 6 of these endings. This includes any actions Berserker takes, since they were all done under Emiya's command. Medea caused 7 of these endings, either directly or through those she could control like Saber. Just like Emiya, Medusa also caused 6 bad endings. Artoria, without being under anyone else's control, killed Shirou once, and even then only after an entire playthrough of neglect. Surprisingly, Gilga only caused 2 of these bad endings, and they only happened because Shirou gave up midway. Kuhulin caused 2 bad endings, though it could easily be argued that they were effectively Kirei's fault for being his master. Even so, Kirei only directly caused 1 of these bad endings, so even with Lancer's kills, it's not that impressive. Rin caused 2 bad ends, but never actually killed Shirou. Obviously, Medea and Kuzuki were working together, but Kuzuki himself was directly responsible for 1 bad ending in particular. I mean, you gotta give the guy credit for smacking Rin's head right off her neck. Ugh. Our boy
Yeah, I
Emiya,
mean, just that
despite it being his
strong.
goal to kill Shirou, only actually does so 1 time. Tell me, Archer, was it everything you'd hoped it'd be? Again, Hassan was working with Zoken, but he only directly killed Shirou 1 time. There were 2 instances in which the blame fell directly on Shirou's own decisions. Ultimately, however, the one I blame for the most bad endings is Zoken. Had he left Sakura alone, none of her killings would have happened, which by extension means Artoria Alter would have never killed anyone. Altogether, I blame him for 8 of these bad endings. Of course, we could definitely argue fault on a semantic level, but I'm willing to justify my ruling. So there you have it. Going into the comments, I want to ask you all 2 main questions. First, what is your favorite ending and why? And second, which ending do you think was the most morbid or depressing? As in, which ending would you least want to be in Shirou's shoes for? Oh, and as thanks for sticking with me to the end of the video, here's a compilation of all of Shirou's bad ending screams.
What? Hey, yo. Oh, literally hearing the. Okay. Okay. That. Wow. That was a different language right there. Nah, bro. What? Yeah, I'm really out here listening to this. Okay.
Thanks for watching.
Oh, and that is it for this one. Okay. Yeah, so a favorite, I can't exactly say. I just be like something real quick that I can think of. And then what do you say? What was the most, oh yeah, morbid? Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to really go back here. 40, like, yeah. But still, I feel like Shido, I don't, like, what is up with him and his arm? I know he got the command seals, but like, bro, it's like every single one involving him having to like sort of die, like in a sort of like, yeah, being tortured at least to death. It's like, oh yeah, let me take off the arm real quick, let me do that first and then torture you. Like, what? Or they already slash him up and then take the arm. It's like, yo, what is up with that? Like, it really must be a problem for them. But let's see, from what I can think of right now, like way in the beginning, when Iya, or at least, yeah, small enough to pick up, I feel like this would be like the most, like, really, what, morbid? Yeah, just, wow. Like, I would not want to, like, what do you do? Like, what, well, not what do you do? What can you do? Like, I mean, you're just seeing red. I mean, you're still conscious and you're small enough to pick up? Like, that's just, come on. So I feel like this would be the worst from what I can at least remember. Let's see. Oh yeah, forget Iya not having an encounter with Shiro. She's going to have an encounter with him no matter what, as I can clearly see here. Cause yeah, the whole thing, like, yeah, you're having such a good life, you know, going to school, basically having like a girlfriend, Sakura, you know, and I'm over here I had to struggle, you know, all these years, and you know, now I got the best servant. So now that I have this advantage and this privilege, let me just take out all this anger, you know, all this frustration. I was about to say the one with Gilgamesh just because I got to see like, yeah, what was really going on. Like, yeah, once Shido sacrificed himself and went inside with him, it's like, yeah, now I'm kind of sort of seeing what is inside of that whatever it was. I can't even think of the name for it. Well, yeah, basically this right here. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what would be my favorite? I'll try and go back a little bit more, and other than that, yeah, I don't think I can really say anything else, I guess, besides the Gilgamesh one. But they're all definitely like, yeah, unique, interesting. There's some just, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's just no way Shido's doing that. Yeah, let me just say, oh yeah, we lost, you know, or just don't even stand up against someone. Like, nah, that is not Shido right there. So I'm not even gonna think about those. Yeah, no way those are my favorite. Like, that's not my Shido. That's an imposter right there. Let's see. Actually, no, it might be, let's see. Maybe the one with Ren, like where Shido was literally forced to, yeah, he just gave himself to her. So no matter what, it's like, yeah, he just has to do what she says. And yeah, ended up like, yeah, if she wants someone to get killed, you just gotta do it. You know, you're the one who basically gave your life to her. So yeah, there you have it. So I feel like that's like, well, yeah, it's not gonna be the same Shido, but it would be like a good learning experience, or at least show us what would happen and certain things that Shido would have to go through if he did that. So I guess I kind of like it just because of that. Like, yeah, Shido, you're the one who just gave yourself away, you know, whether it was good or not. Like, that's your decision, you know, and can show, like, at times, I mean, yeah, Shido, he can make up his mind and stick to that, even if it maybe involves just getting very injured, you know, losing a limb or something. Yeah, losing an arm or leg. It's like, well, he'll stick with that decision no matter what, right? So I guess I kind of like it just because of that. But other than that, I guess I'll end it off here. I don't want to make this longer than it needs to be. So hope you guys did enjoy. Make sure you like, subscribe again, and y'all see you guys in the next one.